can only be attributable to human error.
You're entering Paranormal.
He meddled in things that you keep before. He meddled in things. He meddled in things.
Where will we go next? Just phantom from another time.
No one, Mr. Muller.
That's it, man. Game over, man. Game over.
That is one big pile of shit.
Hello, I'm Alex Daikaiju.
I'm Jasmine with
I'm Eli Watson.
And we are...
Cryptid
Campfire.
Oh, God, yes, it's good to be alive today.
Welcome back, everybody. Today's episode is going to be a little more lighthearted, a little less serious, not as intense as our Cadborosaurus research that we dove into and zoomed through in our last episode. We're talking about something fun today, which actually I learned a lot about. And hopefully this episode will kind of give you some insight into some things you might not have known before about unicorns.
Yeah. Unicorns are they have generations spanning back thousands of years, different lineages. We're going to get into some of that today.
The history, the lineage, the friendship is magic aspects, you could say.
Yeah, and we might be jumping around a little bit. We tend to put our episodes in sort of like a chronological order when we're talking about different cryptids and creatures and sightings and evidence and things like that. This one's a little more broad, a little more jumping around to be had, but I think it's going to be a fun one. So just to start off, throughout history, unicorns have appeared in many Eastern and Western mythologies. Like it's legit in a way. Like I like everyone knows about like what a unicorn is, but like I didn't realize that they went back as far as they do. So they've been depicted in art and legends since at least the Mesopotamian era, which was like 5,000 to 3,500 BC, and can be found in the legends of countries such as Greece, India, China, and several countries of Europe, especially in Scotland, where to this day it is designated as their national animal. Did you guys know that?
No.
That was pretty dope.
Yeah, so in Celtic mythology, the unicorn was a symbol of purity and innocence, as well as masculinity and power. So there were tales of like dominance and chivalry associated with the unicorn, which may be why it was chosen as Scotland's national animal.
This makes a lot of sense with something that makes like so much sense in the context of another thing I'm going to talk about later.
Nice. I think you mentioned this before we started recording, but historians say that the first written account of a unicorn comes from the 4th century BCE, written by Greek physician Theseus, who traveled through what is now, is it Iran or Iran? What's the proper pronunciation? Does it matter?
say Iran.
Iran. Now this is the same guy who wrote about the manticore, which we talked about in a previous episode.
Yeah, make note of that. Good friends. Okay.
So the animal he described was a type of wild ass as large as a horse, which had a white body, red or purple head. Different sources say different colors. It was either a red or a purple head, bright blue eyes, with a multicolored single horn. And by multicolored, it means red at the pointed tip, black in the middle, and white at the base, sprouting from the head, measuring around 1.5 feet in length. And they were described as being very powerful and fast, to the point that they were able to easily outrun any horse.
Let me take this opportunity to thank y'all for watching Cryptid Campfire, and ask that if you enjoy our shows, please subscribe to our channel right now. Like this video and click on the bell so you can be notified each time a new video goes up. And now, back to the show.
That's what he says.
That's what
He also says unicorn meat is bitter to the taste. So, in case you were wondering, like, wow, that sounds like a majestic animal. What does it taste like? Now you know. It's
Mhm.
bitter.
Yeah. They also, an interesting aspect of the unicorn that comes up a couple of times is the fact that its horn was thought to be magical. So, like, if you make a cup from a unicorn's horn and drink from it, you're thought to be protected from stomach trouble, epilepsy, and poison. So it had like healing properties. And supposedly, Pope John III, King James I of England, both allegedly paid great sums of money for whole unicorn horns, although it's not known what happened to them. And these may have actually been the horns of narwhals instead.
Well, okay. All right. We have a lot to discuss here with unicorn horns because they actually have a name. Unicorn horns are called alicorn, and it's also the substance of which they are made of. And like you said, it has all those medieval mystical properties against for health and things like that. The Danish physician, his name is Ole Worm. It's just like, hey, I'm sick. We need to go visit Ole Worm. To me, it's hilarious. He determined in 1638 that alicorns were just tusks of narwhals. Are those not sea unicorns? Anyways, and fun fact, the throne chair of Denmark is partly made of alicorn.
Whoa.
You know, they're always protected.
Very cool.
In case that anyone gets poisoned, just drink water from the throne.
Do you have any more like additional information about Theseus and anything that he wrote about unicorns back then?
Back then, no, but I have an even older kind of tradition of unicorns previous to Theseus.
Okay.
Yeah.
This comes from roughly 2000 BC. So at this point, 4,000 years ago, from the Indus Valley civilization. I think it's so old, we don't even know what these people called themselves. So it was depicted more like a cow instead of a horse with a single horn that went out straight and then curved up, which honestly looks a lot like an ox. And it's always portrayed at a profile, like a two-dimensional art. And so a lot of people are like, well, maybe it is an ox with the two horns, just one is in front of the other or whatever.
Yeah.
But they say that is not true because there are small terracotta toys of unicorns. Multiple of these have been found with the exact same depiction, but with a single horn that's the same way. So I don't know. Unicorns are real.
Yeah. And it's interesting how because that always plays up whenever we look into something is this culture or this area has these depictions of something, but they don't know what they're talking about. These people, you know, what a bunch of goofballs. But it's like, no, they had a statue of unicorns and they had a statue of an ox. Like they knew a difference. So
Yeah.
it's that is interesting how we have two sets of variations.
But also, you know, people could have made it up back then. You know, it's like it's not like it's not like a horse or a cow with a single horn is like the most imaginative or creative thing anyone's ever thought of.
You know, I've thought a lot about that because I like think about life today and all of the just creative media that exists, like any book or movie or anything that's ever been done creatively, as fiction-y as it can be, thousands of years from now could be found and thought as fact. And it's like, no. We were just having fun. So it's like, what if people back there were just having fun, you know?
A few hundred years into the future, phantom broadcast of the podcast Cryptid Campfire will be played across like different areas, and people will think of like, man, years ago they had a real coliseum where they just threw these mythical creatures that were like one at a time and just killed them, and that's why cryptids don't exist anymore.
Yeah. But it is going back to Theseus. It's doubtful that he ever actually saw a lot of the creatures he described in his writings. Historians believe that his writings just retell the stories that were told to him, and we don't know the context exactly of what, how, or when, or why those stories were even told to him.
Okay, here's the thing. So this guy goes off to India, right? Away from, and he knows for a fact no one else is going to travel to India in his lifetime. So no one that he like is surrounded with. So he goes to India. It probably was lame. And then he came back and was like, well, no one else is going to go, so I can make up whatever I want. I was like, yeah, there's this thing called the manticore and there's unicorns. And, you know, it's like.
Hot take, hot claim, straight from Eli Watson of Cryptid Campfire. Theseus
I'm
was
just-
a liar.
It must have been so nice though, to like Eli said, to know like, oh, I could go somewhere across the world and no one else around here is going to. There's a world out there. I think we haven't even discovered. We're Greeks, you know. We're starting to talk about philosophy, who we are. Now we got to discover where we are too.
Mhm.
It's possible.
It's so easy to slap your name on a bunch of stuff, and then, you know, Theseus, he's remembered as the guy who went to India and found manticores and unicorns.
Yeah. It's possible that he was just taking creative liberties with things that he did actually see, though, such as the Indian rhinoceros, which people link to his description of the unicorn, though those colors don't really check out, in my opinion.
No, they don't.
But there's another guy, too, who was an Italian explorer. He lived from 1470 to 1517. His name was I looked up how to pronounce this, and then I didn't write the phonetic pronunciation down in my notes. I think it's Ludovico di Varthema. He claimed to have traveled across parts of Africa and Asia, including Somalia, Egypt, Yemen, India, Malaysia, and Indonesia. And he also wrote about his travels and published them in 1510 in a book called The Itinerary of Ludovico di Varthema of Bologna. The book was reprinted several times and eventually translated into many languages. But in this book, he recounts that he had seen 2 live unicorns in the Middle Eastern city of Mecca. He described them as being fierce beasts with the bodies of horses, the heads of stags, and the legs of goats. He wrote that these 2 animals were presented to the Sultan of Mecca as the finest things that could be found in the world at the present day, and as the richest treasure ever sent by a king of Ethiopia. He had made this present in order to secure an alliance with the said Sultan of Mecca.
Wow.
I wonder if the description, because it said what, the head of a stag,
Yeah.
body of a horse,
And the leg of goat.
legs of goats. So it's like big head, very long body, and like tiny goat legs.
Mhm.
It just kind of like scuttles in. Like, hey, check out this tiny little horse. Look at this
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah. Carl Shuker. Now, this is, I tried to find, because Carl Shuker has his own blog and he writes a lot of his own articles, and you can go direct to him for his opinions on things. This is a secondhand opinion from him that I read on another source that claims Carl Shuker suggests that the animals he saw were actually Arabian oryxes, which are handsome, creamy white antelope.
Is that the scientific name?
Yeah, whose two long spiraled horns are so close together that when the creature's viewed from profile, like Eli had mentioned earlier, it can seem as if there's only one horn. But again, there's a bunch of arguments about, like, no, if it was this, then people would have known it was this, and there wouldn't have been a misidentification or anything like that. But like I said, I tried to find Carl Shuker's actual stance on that particular case, but I couldn't find anything in my search. Not saying it's not out there. I just couldn't find it. I read it from a secondhand source that said he said that.
Oh. Well, I don't mean to turn the clock back, but I'm going to go back to the 6th century.
Okay.
So the 500s. And there was a fella from a merchant of Alexandria named Cosmas Indicopleustes, who made a voyage to India and subsequently wrote works on cosmography, which back then meant a mapping of the earth and the heavens and the stars. Now it means the study of the stars. So it hasn't changed much, but the connotations are different. One's a scientific look and the other one is presumably not scientific. So he gives a description. Old Cosmos gives a description of a unicorn based on 4 brass figures in the palace of the king of Ethiopia, which is funny. You just brought that up. And so supposedly from his report, he writes that it is impossible to take this ferocious beast alive and that all its strength lies in its horns. When it finds itself pursued and in danger of capture, it throws itself from a precipice and turns so aptly in falling that it receives all the shock upon the horn and so escapes safe and sound. Move aside, vibranium. I think we found the new strongest substance.
Alicorn, eh?
Yep.
Even stronger than unobtainium.
There's apparently there's lots of other famous sightings by people from history too, including Marco Polo, Genghis Khan, Pliny the Elder, Julius Caesar, and Chinese philosopher Confucius. Now, I didn't go looking for all of those stories, but I would be intrigued to know them if you guys found any of them.
Yes, I have Marco Polo specifically. There's a little bit of setup to get to that though.
Okay.
So I guess I want to say something else first and then yes, okay. I gotta go this way.
No pressure. We're doing a unicorn episode. It's okay. Don't feel the pressure.
This is gonna be a really long-winded way to get to Marco Polo. So bear with me.
Okay.
In the Bible.
Yes. Yes.
That's where we're starting. In the Bible, there is mentioned 9 times a creature called the Rem, which was
specifically we're talking about, sorry, I don't mean to cut you off, but I'm just jumping in. Specifically, we're talking about the King James translation, the King James version of the Bible, which was originally published in 1611, has the 9 references to that animal.
Well, okay.
Specifically, because words change, words get interchanged.
Yeah.
Different animals are named.
In the King James Bible, they're not called the Rem. It was translated as unicorn. So, right. And then in later translations, it's oryx or rhinoceros. Some people say it's, I forget, but basically some kind of horned animal. Basically, no one knows.
Wild ox.
A wild ox. No one knows what it means, I guess. They just know it's some kind of horned animal.
Yeah.
So,
there's some versions of the Bible out there with 9 references to rhinoceroses.
Yeah.
Just straight up like that's a word I would not expect to encounter in the Bible, especially 9 times.
Yeah.
Yeah. 9 times, dude.
They say that the most accurate translation of the Hebrew word is wild ox. Were you going to read one of the passages as an example?
No.
I will. So, as an example of one of the passages in Numbers 24:8, it says, God brought him forth out of Egypt. He hath, as it were, the strength of a unicorn. He shall eat. He shall eat up the nations, his enemies, and shall break their bones and pierce them through with his arrows. Now that makes the unicorn sound pretty hardcore and makes me excited for what may happen in the Colosseum later.
Yeah. Or, and the Lord said to him, you got the power of a rhinoceros, kid.
Well, and then I have this. I found some other bits and pieces from Jewish folklore, which I'm assuming come from, I didn't get where these came from, but considering that I've never heard about this in the Bible, I'm assuming it's like Jewish tradition has a lot of extra books and stuff in addition to the Bible with, accounts of biblical events from different perspectives and things like that. And so I'm assuming that's where some of this comes from. So, and I figured, because we can't go an episode without talking about poop.
Yes, we can. We can. If we really want to, we can.
Well, we didn't talk about poop last episode. Right?
We'll go back and edit
I
it
don't
in.
know.
Well, we'll go back and edit it in. So the ram was supposedly larger than a mountain and could dam the River Jordan with its dung.
Whoa.
And apparently it survived Noah's flood. And the way that worked out was because if it's as big as a mountain, it's not going to fit on the ark. And so Noah had to strap its horns to the side of the ark so that its nostrils could protrude into the ark, allowing the animal to breathe. So it was just kind of like hanging off the side.
What?
Wow. Wow, that's kind of dope.
So
They also used it for jet propulsion to move the ark around.
yeah. So this brings me to the Middle Ages, because I feel like I needed to establish that kind of religious backdrop, because this suddenly becomes intertwined with the quote unquote pagan version of the unicorn. And so there's a medieval and kind of as Christianity spread, we talked about this in one of our like Christmas episodes, to where there's a lot of intermingling of different religions. And so that's kind of happened here with the unicorn. And so there's a medieval bestiary known as Physiologus, which presented an allegory in which a unicorn was trapped by a maiden, which was represented by the Virgin Mary. It stood for the incarnation, and the incarnation is being kind of the physical manifestation of a deity. And I'm not sure, like, it just says the incarnation, and I wasn't like sure, like, if that like Jesus's birth or like something else, or
Yeah.
But supposedly when the unicorn sees the maiden, it lays its head down in her lap and falls asleep, creating that kind of famous image of a unicorn sleeping in a woman's lap. I've seen that before. I feel like it's been painted a number of times. So there's that. And so unicorns in the Middle Ages are often depicted as being hunted, kind of drawing parallels between virgins and the Passion of Christ. I think that, think on that. I don't want to get into it, but that's an interesting parallel to make between. Anyways,
it's some wild stuff.
Yeah, but it kind of works, right? And then there's the myth that unicorns can only be tamed by virgins. And so I was also reading about the whole, like, how could that be symbolized in the Bible, in a sense of like the Virgin Mary and Jesus being her son, and the implications of that, and how does that relate to unicorns and things like that. Like basically God is a unicorn, essentially and that's what I was saying. It ties back to what you said earlier. He's masculine, untamable, except by presumably pure. What's considered pure? A virgin is untainted. So I don't know. It's kind of interesting how it kind of got really intertwined there, and I feel like you could have a really deep discussion about symbolic elements and societal views on things, but I'm not going to get into it. I'm going to skip it and contrast that with Marco Polo's descriptions of the unicorn, because he describes unicorns as scarcely smaller than elephants. They have hair of a buffalo and feet like an elephant's. They have a single large black horn in the middle of the forehead with a head of a wild boar. They spend time wallowing in mud and slime. They're ugly brutes to look at. And here's a quote: They are not at all such as we describe them when we relate that they let themselves be captured by virgins, but clean contrary to our notions. So, and the reason why I said everything was because Marco Polo is aware of the traditional depiction of a unicorn.
Gotcha.
And he's
And
like
he's
super
saying-
let down by it.
Yeah, super let down that reality did not. Oh, I guess anyone can go see a unicorn. They're in the mud.
It's not that as it flips around in the mud and like eats slime.
Yeah, but and then stemming all the way back to, biblical translations, a lot of scholars believe that what Marco Polo was describing was a rhinoceros. So it all comes back together, guys.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty good too. It's like, oh wow, unicorns, they are real. I found one, and they kind of suck.
Yeah.
Marco Polo.
Alex, did you find any other kind of historical accounts or like legends about unicorns?
Well, what's interesting is what I found is this will be a little bit of, it's a mix of pulp culture and medieval. I'll just go right into it. Have you guys ever heard of, from 1982, it's an animated film called The Last Unicorn?
It does sound familiar. I can't say for sure that I've ever seen it, but it does sound familiar.
It's really good. It's by Rankin Bass, same animation company that did all the stop motion Rudolph's and Santa Claus Comes to Town.
Oh, so is it stop motion?
It's not stop motion. It's actually 2D animated, but it's done in a really cool kind of stylized way. It looks like moving paintings sometimes.
Yeah. Have you seen tangent. Have you seen their Hobbit movie?
Yeah.
Yeah, because they did a 2D animated Hobbit movie.
It's a little bit, it's kind of like the Hobbit, but a little cleaner looking. There's really nice blue and red hues throughout the movie. And it's based on a novel by this guy called Peter S. Spiegel. And he wrote the novel in 1968, and he took a lot of like medieval imagery and legends and kind of put it together into the story about the last unicorn who it's basically the story of Last Unicorn. She goes through different adventures, encounters different creatures. Christopher Lee voices I think a devil ox that keeps pursuing her in it.
Whoa.
And Jeff Bridges is like a king who falls in love with the unicorn because at one point she turns into a human.
Okay.
Whoa.
Yeah.
This is wild.
It is really wild because like you think about movies nowadays, they follow the traditional 3-act structure of, oh, that's this and this happened. Or like, oh, in 1982, they were making The Last Unicorn and there's like no rhyme or reason and the story is just kind of happening at you and stuff just happens, but it's awesome. And I actually, a few years ago, I met the author. He was doing they were showing the movie. It was like the 40th or the 50th anniversary of it. And they had him there for a live Q&A, and it was at the Lamel Theater.
The Lemley Nice.
The Lamel.
But so to me, that's one of the best pulp culture unicorn things I can think of. That it's a really good movie, but also it has a lot of the opening is the opening title crawl is basically just every imagery of a unicorn painting you can think being played. So there's the imagery of the unicorn like in a cage that you always see in medieval paintings, and there's the one of it sitting on like a lady's lap, and there's even a one of it being pursued by people shooting arrows at the unicorn.
Well, that's funny because do you know where that imagery kind of stems from? Specifically, the two you mentioned were it being hunted, and then the other one, which is it being in a cage. It comes from a Gothic series of 7 tapestries titled The Hunt of the Unicorn. So they're meant to be displayed sequentially. And so the first 6 tapestries depict noblemen hunting and killing the unicorn and bringing it back to their kingdom. And then tapestry 7 is a little bit of a mystery to a lot of people because it depicts that the unicorn is no longer dead and instead is alive in captivity and tied to a pomegranate tree. How did it come back alive? No one knows.
They used trank arrows on it.
they might have. But last kind of historical tangent, if I may. The reason, like, so unicorns kind of had a decline in popularity as time went on. You know, old Worm might have had something to do with that, with when he was like, hey, these aren't real unicorn horns, these are narwhal horns.
Tusks, even, because they're not even
Tusks.
they come out the mouth and go through
Oh,
the
do they
lip.
really?
Yeah, it's not like a horn on the head, it's a tooth.
So Rankin Bass is wrong because they have the narwhal character,
Hi,
and
Mr.
it's
Narwhal.
coming out of the head. That's not true.
Oh.
My hopes and dreams, man. Wow. Then we have the Council of Trent, held between. Okay, so the Council of Trent. I'm thinking this is like a 1 day, maybe multi-day thing, held between 1550 or 1545 and 1563. So almost 20 years for a single council. And it was the 19th ecumenical council of the Catholic Church, prompted by the Protestant Reformation. So basically people were breaking away from the Catholic Church, and the Catholic Church took almost 20 years for them to figure out, what are we going to do about this? And I guess somewhere in those 18 years, they decided that not only were unicorns not real, but that they shouldn't be used in religious depictions anymore. And then the unicorn just faded into myth.
Damn.
Yep.
They got together to talk about, why are we losing so many people? And after 20 years, they walked away saying, you know what, unicorns suck.
They blame the unicorns.
And that's why everyone said, that's why we're leaving. We want unicorns.
Yeah. Which is funny. Wait, that's about the time the King James Bible was written. I think the King James Bible was translated during the Protestant Reformation. See, it all comes together, guys.
They're like, hey, we got unicorns in our book over here, guys.
And it is funny too. I'll mention this kind of one last historical tie-in, and then we'll get into some more kind of like modern stuff and discussion. We already kind of mentioned what the unicorn is a symbol for, and what it was seen as. It can be seen as a symbol of ferociousness, freedom, power, speed, and they appear on many coats of arms and emblems. So just to kind of like go through, the unicorn was first used on the Scottish royal coat of arms by William I in the 12th century. In the 15th century, when King James III was in power, gold coins even appeared with the unicorn on them. And then when Scotland and England unified under the reign of James Roman numeral, I don't know because I forgot to look it up. What's a B and an I? Is that six? That's six, right?
Yep.
Yeah. James VI of Scotland in 1603, the Scottish royal arms had two unicorns supporting a shield. So when James VI became James I of England and Ireland, he replaced the unicorn on the left of the shield with the national animal of England, the lion, to show that the countries were indeed united. So the journey that the unicorn goes on in terms of how it's seen back and forth, and then like getting kicked out of religion and everything else. It's interesting.
It is interesting. How did it happen?
I don't know. At one point, they were even seen as harbingers of tragedy too, like bad luck.
Yeah. I read a little bit about that. That kind of comes from the Council of Trent as well.
Mm.
Yeah, they were not content with just saying the unicorn isn't real. They were like, the unicorn is also a symbol of bad luck and things. I think they were just bitter.
They were just dissing on it the whole time.
Now, Alex, the movie that you were talking about, The Last Unicorn, is it safe? I kind of Googled it just to get a quick image of it, but it's safe to assume that the depiction of the unicorn in that movie is very in line with what the modern day unicorn is seen as, right? Is it like a white horse with a flowing mane and shiny horn or whatever?
Yes, but yeah, got a nice glow to it.
Yeah,
Hmm.
because descriptions of unicorns, they change with every story, but most often the unicorn is depicted as a horse-like creature with a single horn growing from its forehead. I don't have to tell you guys that everyone, when you hear the word unicorn, we all tend to picture the same thing. But sometimes a unicorn is also described as like a deer or a donkey or a goat with a single horn. Like people can use the term unicorn for other animals that just have one horn. But most often it's a horse, and it's usually white, with, you know, straight horn coming out the forehead. And then we kind of talked about the healing properties of what it was believed the unicorn to have. But I read a couple other things too that I wish I could have found more on, because it seems so interesting. We already talked about the healing properties of like the horn and how you can like drink from a cup made from it. You could also grind it up into a powder. The tears and the blood of unicorn were also said to be healing.
Oh, that makes sense, because pop culture ran off in the very first Harry Potter. There's something out there drinking the blood of unicorns in the Enchanted Forest. That's like one of the plot points. Is there's like a cloaked figure that's drinking the blood of the unicorns.
Interesting.
Good old Harry Perry.
But it's also said in some mythologies that unicorns can give people the power of immortality and the ability to fly. Which that's interesting to me, because unicorns aren't typically thought to fly. If you slap a pair of wings on a unicorn, then it becomes something different. That's Pegasus there. Or wait, does Pegasus doesn't have
unicorn.
Yeah, Pegasus doesn't have the horn.
That's right. Pegasus does not have a horn.
Dang, this is all advanced.
Very interesting.
Yeah, it's interesting that if you drink from the horn, you can get immortality and the ability to fly, because that's just like I forgot. Never mind. I was gonna make a joke. I forgot.
So let's get into some real world sightings. If you have any.
Whoa! I don't like the insinuation behind this, because
it's a loaded question.
Because we've always talked on this show, like how can people see things that aren't real? Because no one would ever lie.
No,
in a report.
Right.
It's not in human nature to lie. Honestly.
Right. Yeah. But I have something from 1968.
Okay.
From a fella named Robert Bavra.
Okay.
Do you have a lot to say on him?
I don't have a lot to say. I have an opinion that I'll share.
Ooh, hot take.
But go ahead.
Because I didn't have the time to research this person as much as I would like. And maybe I will do it live. But I have a quote from him here. My first face-to-face encounter with a unicorn took place in a Mexican jungle near Tamazunchale in the spring of 1968. The one photograph that I was able to snap is reproduced on this page. So clearly they did not copy that photo, but into the article that I read. This picture, as the reader can see, is so blurry and nondescript that I had attempted to publish it at the time. That had I attempted to publish it at the time, I would have been considered as much a crank or a hoaxer as those persons who occasionally submit to the press out of focus suspect.
What a crank.
Now I want to see this photo.
Well, see, that's the thing. I don't know which photo he's referencing. So I feel like you probably read that quote from the same source I did online, which, as you mentioned, did not include the photo or even where that quote comes from. I can't confirm it because I don't have the book, but my best guess is that that quote comes from his book called Unicorns I Have Known, which was published in 1983. And I looked that book up, And it's a collection of unicorn legends and lore drawn from such sources as the Bible, myth, art, and literature, all the same stuff that we've been talking about today so far, accompanying full color photographs. And while I don't have access to the physical book, I read reviews about the book, and looking at the reviews, it seems to me like this was a book that a lot of people feel nostalgic about and had as a child because it helped them develop their imagination and sense of wonderment and things like that. I can't say with certainty whether this is like the mockumentary version of a book, where someone wrote as if they encountered unicorns, or if it truly is him claiming to have gone out and photographed unicorns. I can't say for sure. I didn't look enough into it, but that's my best guess. I feel like what this book might be and what his claims might be is a fictional first person account sort of published into a book. Because my parents had books like that regarding fairies. I have books about fairies somewhere in storage in my house in Ohio that are made as if this book snapped down on fairies, and it's we have the fairies in the book, you know what I mean?
Like the Spiderwick Chronicles.
Or, and I'm playing devil's advocate here, he was inspired to write this book because he had a sighting with a unicorn.
Yeah, and like I said, I don't know for sure.
Yeah,
I would have to look at the actual book.
Well, I pulled up a Wikipedia page on him, and here's some cool fun facts. He was actually born in 1935 in Glendale, California.
Oh, dang.
Go.
Yeah, right. And then he was inspired by bulls and bullfighting that he saw in Mexico, so he moved to Spain. And he kind of spent 6 years studying bulls. And here's a quote: "I couldn't obtain the sort of photographs I wanted for the study, so I became a photographer out of necessity." And so he kind of became like a wildlife photographer. And that's kind of what he ended up doing with his life. And so I don't know, it kind of makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. It's interesting.
Yeah.
I think he's still alive.
Story, huh?
Yeah, I think he's still alive.
Yeah, a guy from Glendale moves to Spain, wants to study bulls, has to take photography on the side to get good pictures. Just starts doing that. Sees a unicorn.
Yeah, just
puts out a book in the 80s about my dances with unicorns. That's crazy.
Well, and it's something else to note too is that was not the first book he ever published. He wrote a book on bulls, and so, which makes sense considering he spent 6 years studying bulls. So, I don't know. It says he lives in El Cajon, which is down towards me. Maybe I'll find him and be like,
run into him on the street.
Yeah, got any cool unicorn photos?
Yeah.
Well, did you guys read about the Harz Mountains at all in your unicorn research?
Mm-mm.
Yes, I did.
So this intrigues me. And again, there's going to be a little bit of some time jumping here with this particular location. So in 1991, there was an Austrian naturalist named Ontal Festatix who said he saw a unicorn while riding horseback in the Harz Mountains of Germany. He'd been filming a wildlife documentary and claimed in an interview with a magazine that one evening he had seen something that he would never forget. He's quoted as saying, "Suddenly, a unicorn came towards me at a gallop. There was a glow of light around the animal. My horse reared and almost threw me. Then, just as quickly, it was gone." And he would tell this story more than once and even said that he had videotaped the creature, but it's unclear to me if that is true or if it is where the footage went, because some people say that the footage, it never made it into the documentary that he was making. But some people don't know if it even exists. Some people say that he turned the tape over to experts at Göttingen University, where anyone can view it, but skeptics consider the tape a fake. So who knows?
Oh, wow.
When did you say when that happened?
91.
Huh. Interesting.
Yeah. But
What movies came out in 1991?
What movies came out in 1991? I couldn't tell you.
Was that Reservoir Dogs?
Yeah, because what 92 is Terminator 2, right?
And Man Bites Dog. Oh my goodness, what a
Bites
year.
Dog.
I'm just trying to see.
1990, we got RoboCop 2 and Francis Ford Coppola's Dracula.
Yeah, we did. Okay. Never mind then.
Why did you think that the footage was like secretly added to a movie?
I
or
know.
something like
I
that?
was just curious. That's what I don't know. I can understand him not including it in his documentary because I feel like if you were to include footage like that into a nature documentary, suddenly the documentary would be like about the unicorn. It would be like, whoa, what, you can't just drop that in there, bro.
Yeah.
You can't have a 5-minute little, a little take on unicorns in the middle of your 3-hour Disney Earth documentary.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but that's cool. I didn't read that it was possibly on display at a university somewhere in Germany.
Yeah, right.
So I mean,
I
I
don't
want to
know.
watch that.
Little German university got footage of a unicorn hanging out.
Yeah. But that location, the Harz Mountains, is also where Unicorn Cave is located. Did you guys
No
read
way.
anything about that?
No, I didn't.
Okay. So the cave was discovered in medieval times, and the original thought was that the large deposits of strange bones that were found in there belonged to unicorns. Like there was a bunch of skeletons and fossils and stuff discovered. And there was this guy, Otto von Guericke, who was a Prussian scientist who invented the vacuum pump. Fun fact. He took some of the bones that had been discovered in that cave and reconstructed a pretty goofy looking skeleton to try and portray what was supposed to be like a unicorn in the 1660s, which I think you can still see that skeletal reconstruction at the Natural History Museum in Magdeburg, Germany. And it looks goofy because it looks like a 2-legged unicorn. Like it doesn't even look like it's not even a 4-legged unicorn. It's like a dinosaur with a horn or something like that.
That would have been a interesting take if a unicorn started looking like dinosaurs.
Right? Basically what happens here is it's not known for sure if he was just effing with people or if he genuinely thought he was like reconstructing a real unicorn skeleton. And the skeleton ended up inspiring a sketch that was included in a book on natural history written in the 1700s. But the end goal of this story here is to say that modern studies have shown that the bones in the cave were actually from a number of prehistoric animals who had taken shelter in the large cave. So there's like mammoths to ancient cave bears, lions. The remains of over 70 species had been identified in that cave. So it's a real hodgepodge. Like, of course, it would be confusing to come across all of these bones from all these different animals. Like you could make so many assumptions. And one of the assumptions was unicorn. And further regarding fossils, just kind of as a side note, which I found interesting when I read it, fossils that we now know as cephalopods were once thought to be coiled snakes. And then straight cephalopod shells were also once thought to be unicorn horns. So like I didn't even know what a cephalopod was. And so I just Googled it and it looks like a freaking, like if you look at a cephalopod, whatever, it looks like a coiled up unicorn horn that you can just unroll and there you go.
Yeah. Cephalopods are aquatic, yes?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
They're a little like octopus isn't like a shelled octopus, right? Essentially,
Yeah.
with a pointy shell, prehistoric.
Or like a
Mhm.
coiled one, like we were saying.
Mm-hmm,
But yeah, if you look at like if you look at the fossils, you'd be like, that's a unicorn horn. That's a coiled up snake, or that's a unicorn horn. Anyway, unicorn cave fossils.
That's cool. And you can visit. I was looking at it just as you were talking about it. You can go there and visit it. And
it's
the reconstruction.
It's such a good name too. Like, oh hey, we got the unicorn cave. Like, oh, that sounds kind of fun. And it's just a big cave full of just prehistoric fossils.
Oh
It's
yeah,
just-
you're talking about the cave. You can go visit the cave, but you can also go visit the skeletal reconstruction at the museum.
Oh, really? Oh, that's cool.
I think.
The cave's cooler.
I've seen pictures. Yeah, of course the cave's cooler.
Okay, yeah. I just want to know, like, why did all those animals die in that cave? That's like so crazy. Like,
that's the ending of Ice Age. Mammoths and sloths and tigers.
Well, the Wikipedia page has 2 images. One, the public entrance for the cave, which is what most of us will probably walk through, with a door and everything. It looks very constructed. And then the natural entrance to the cave, which just looks like a hole in the ground. So possibly these things were just walking around and then fell into the cave and like got injured and then died.
Dang.
Like over at least 70 animals, you know, presumably
falling
more.
into this big hole.
Wow, that's crazy. That would suck. Anyways, that's 1991.
In a nutshell.
In 2010, did you guys?
Yeah.
This is the most compelling evidence for unicorns. So this is the wetlands of Don Valley near Toronto, Ontario, Canada. To me, that's hilarious. It sounds like, I don't know, never mind. Peter Hickey Jones, a local bird watcher, filmed a unicorn gallop through the trees, through a creek, and disappear into the woods again. And the footage is on YouTube, and the full video is like 5 seconds, like the actual footage itself. And then
it always is. It's always here's a 10-minute footage clip of 3 seconds of something walking.
And the video uploaded is 15 seconds long because they do some freeze frame. Yeah, see, the footage itself is really 3 seconds long. Wow. So a lot of people, when it came out, thought it was a hoax. And I think the primary reason being is that it looks fake.
It looks really fake, you guys. Like, it literally looks like the unicorn doesn't even like have any real natural movement. It literally just looks like a cutout of like a unicorn just like scooting across the page.
Yeah. And I'm watching, there's like, you can see the mane move a little bit, but that's the most, like, it doesn't even look like it's galloping. It looks like it's sliding across the frame.
Yeah.
You know, and then it like disappears behind this bush, which honestly looks like kind of rotoscoped in.
Yep.
So, and the reason for the hoax, okay, what's the reason for the hoax? Was that it was part of a marketing campaign for the Ontario Science Center, where it was sent for analysis. And at an exhibit called Mythic Creatures, Dragons, Unicorns, and Mermaids. I think that's hook, line, and sinker, my friends.
Yeah. I wish that the video looked better. I really do. It looks, it's so disappointing.
It looks fake.
Well, I guess it was just a piece of promo. It was a commercial to go to the museum.
Yeah. Side note, speaking of commercial and like using mythical creatures, have you guys seen, I think it's a Verbo ad that has like these Bigfoot type creatures hanging out in a vacation rental. And I saw it and I was like, this is so cool. I'm gonna have to look it up and see if it's just a
Yeah,
sidebar. I
Was
thought it
this
was
a Super
really
Bowl
cool.
ad?
No, it wasn't on the Super Bowl. It was I saw it a while ago.
Oh, tangent, but Stefan's neighbor was in a Super Bowl ad with Kevin Hart.
Oh, really?
I know someone who was in the McDonald's Super Bowl ad.
Really?
Yeah.
It's wild to me.
I literally was sitting on the ground because I was like petting dogs at the Super Bowl party. And I just
As
so
one
happened to
does.
turn and look at the TV as somebody that I personally know was on the screen going, "Can I get a?" And I was like, "Wow."
Yeah, that's sick.
But yeah, no, it is a Verbo ad. It's if you just type in Verbo Bigfoot, you'll be able to watch it. I thought it was really cute the first time I saw it. But anyway.
You know, hey, everyone out there, use cryptids for marketing. Jack's Link Beef Jerky's been doing it for years.
This is true. 2014 sighting, anybody?
Yes. Wait.
Unidentified witness made claims that he was out hiking near the castle of Oldwick in Scotland when he saw what he described as basically a horse with a horn, which wandered off towards Loch Hempriggs to the south of the town. At the time, the sighting became big news in the area, even spawning plans to launch a unicorn safari for any curiosity seekers that came in to investigate. But it is unclear just what the witness saw or what became of this report. So just another dust of sand in the wind of unicorn claims.
Another missed opportunity. We could have had unicorn safaris.
Yeah.
We already had a skunk ape safari, so.
Oh yeah. There's a stinky one too.
I didn't come across any other like real life sightings or encounters other than those few.
I'm
the funny
surprised
thing
there was
too
those
is, like,
at Elf.
Yeah, right.
The thing about unicorns so specifically is it is so easy to fake a unicorn. Like you could just slap a horn on a horse and send it out there and someone could see it, but it'd just be so easy to say, oh, it was a horse with a horn on it. Like unicorns could be just roaming out there freely, and every time we see one, it's just like, oh, it's just a horse. And it's wearing a accessory. They could be hiding in plain sight.
You know, I saw a YouTube video. I saw a YouTube video of one like that. It was a birthday party, and everyone's kind of dressed up like medieval or fairies. You know, it almost looks like a Renaissance fair. And this lady comes in wearing like fairy wings, and riding a horse or riding a unicorn, and the horn is there. It's like legit on the animal. It's not added in, but I'm like, that could be. It's a white horse, and it's low quality footage. So I'm like, that could easily be like a strapped on horn that you can't see the straps because the straps are probably white to blend in, you know, and just like, and the person who uploaded was like, is this real evidence of a unicorn? And I was like, probably not. It's probably like a themed birthday party. Like,
or yeah, you know what? It is an actual, honest to God, real unicorn. It's real, and it's being used for birthday parties. You know?
Yeah. Well, if you want to talk about real, we've kind of discussed all of it already, but just to kind of run through it again, many experts say stories about unicorns could have been influenced by real animals, such as the Indian rhinoceros, which does have one horn. And then other possibilities include the wild ox, the Arabian oryx, which we mentioned earlier. And for whatever reason, narwhal is included on this list, but I'm like, you cannot mistake a narwhal for a unicorn. Those are two completely different creatures. If you're just talking about single horned animals, then sure, whatever. But the unicorn could be a mix of many animals and sightings and things like that. And it is possible to manipulate the horn buds of cattle and goats and probably other horned animals so that you can twist the horns together to make it look like there's one horn. So throughout history in certain cultures, people have done this in order to mark various animals as being for a particular purpose. So for example, the ancient Romans made unicorns by manipulating the two horns of a young ram or bull on a daily basis so that the horns grew together, or by burning a young animal's scalp before the horns emerge so that both horns would grow out of the center of the skull instead of the sides. And then the
Dang,
resulting
whoa.
horn would
Jeez.
not have looked healthy, which means that the living animal would not have been mistaken for a natural unicorn. But the horn of such an animal, once fossilized, would easily be mistaken for a natural one. So that's saying, like, if the horns were manipulated on an animal, like, it would be very obvious that it had been manipulated just by the outside appearance. But if you find that fossil, you would have no way of knowing that that was done
Yeah.
Mhm.
manually.
Well, did you get the real unicorn?
You're talking about the deer?
No, but tell me about the deer.
Oh, I think I know what you were referencing. But there was a deer. There's an Italian deer called the Prado unicorn, which was a deer that had a single horn on its forehead, found in 2008. They believe that the deer had a rare genetic mutation, and maybe unicorn myths came from other animals with similar mutations in the past. But that is a real thing that really happened. A one-horned deer, straight in the middle there. But the real unicorn, I think I know where you're going with that.
Yeah, aka the giant Siberian unicorn, aka Elasmotherium, an extinct species of rhino that inhabited the Eurasia region in the late Pliocene and through the Pleistocene eras. So that's like 2.6 million years ago to at least 39,000 years ago. And so I guess there's 3 different species of the Siberian unicorn. And, you know, there's a whole history of discovering, you know, the fossils and stuff like that. But it kind of became like, it's covered in hair. It was thought to be covered in hair. Like it's basically a woolly rhino. Like a woolly mammoth is a hair-covered elephant. This is a hair-covered rhino. And they were like, oh, maybe people thought this was a unicorn. Maybe. Except none of the reports come from Siberia. So
Yeah, right. Could all these people throughout the world just be seeing Siberian woolly rhinos?
yeah. Like maybe Celtic, because I'm assuming Celtic is pretty far north. Maybe these rhinos made their way over, you know, but I don't see it. And I guess what would be interesting is to look into like almost Russian mythology of unicorns. Do they have something similar in their mythology?
Mm-hmm.
And I guess we won't know.
So we do Unicorns Part 2 in
Unicorn.
2023.
Oh
I don't know
boy.
about that. But
Unicorn Campfire.
Unicorn Day is coming up. We're missing it just by a little much. A little bit. April 9th. April 9th is Unicorn Day. Yeah. We're a little, I think by the time this episode comes out, we'll be a little early. So Unicorn Day is probably coming out soon.
Yeah.
What am I saying?
We'll make an Instagram post. Hey, happy Unicorn Day, everybody. Woohoo.
Oh yeah, we should
Get out there,
be
the
cool.
best unicorn you can be in this hellhole.
I did find a webpage which I thought was pretty clever from the World Wildlife Fund for Endangered Species Conservation. So they do have a page dedicated to the protection of unicorns. Like, it's spoken mostly in terms of like imagination and keeping magic alive, and making sure that the idea of the magical unicorn doesn't die out, doesn't become endangered. But it then links the mythical unicorn with the real world unicorn, one-horned animal that faces very real, serious threats, being African rhinos. So that's how they tie those two things in together. But yeah, I thought that was a fun use of like fun thing plus sad thing equals education, try to fix.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's interesting just looking into unicorns. I guess my biggest takeaway is the unicorn itself isn't particularly special because it's just the horse with a horn on his head.
Yeah.
But it's the magic that's behind it that seems to be the thrust behind, like the kings giving it away, or people trying to hunt it, or drink the blood, or use the alu horn. So because it's, you know, we have so many types of horned animals in this world naturally, like deers, elk, rhinos, elephants, amazing creatures with real life horns. But, you know, there's no magic to it. So I wonder if that's like the unicorn is just captures people's idea of like a magical creature that you can have an adventure with, I guess.
Yeah. And I mean, according to the WWF, African rhinos are being
the World Wrestling Federation, they're weighing in on the unicorns.
The World Wildlife Fund, who I just mentioned, they say that the African rhinos are being poached in record numbers because of the belief that their horns cure ailments and even hangovers. So like, you know.
Hangovers? You crack an egg in a beer and you drink that, it solves your hangover right there.
Well, speaking of magic, you know, we all know another word for magic is friendship, because friendship is magic.
Oh Lord. Okay.
That's right. It turns out we were the unicorns the whole time.
Yeah, we are unicorns.
Well, are we ready to take our seats
At the Coliseum?
at the Coliseum?
Yeah.
At the Coliseum. Let's go.
Woohoo.
I'm ready.
All right. Let's go. We got some history about unicorns. Let's got to see some nice imagery. So now let's maim it a little bit in the Coliseum. All right. Let's go. The camera pans over a massive forest. And in the middle of the massive green, we see the bone-white glimmer of the Cryptid Coliseum. As the camera begins to pan inward, we hear the rising cheer of the crowd. Yeah! Over a large stone archway carved into the ancient marble is a phrase. It reads as follows: "When God is in his heavens, all is right with the world." And then below it, scrawled in some red graffiti, someone has added, "And God left town a long time ago." A four-legged creature makes its way out of the dark tunnel and into the battle arena. With a sharp, multicolored horn on its head and a song in its heart, the unicorn stands ready. And across the way, we hear the infamous battle gates open. From out of the dark gateway emerges an old face from an old world, horse-headed with a leathery wings and a rough childhood. It's that devil from Jersey, the Jersey Devil.
Oh, sick.
These two creatures of legend stand across from each other, and the battle begins. Unicorn charges at a breakneck speed towards the Jersey Devil, its spiked horn looking to spear its opponent. The Jersey Devil leaps into the air and dodges, its wings uplifting its cursed shape high up. Jersey Devil spits out a fireball. The fiery projectile misses the unicorn, but singes some of its beautiful mane. The fireball continues its trajectory and explodes onto the right side of the spectator stand.
Oh God.
Screams and burnt flesh fill the air, and the Jersey Devil dives at the unicorn with extended claws. With one continuous sweep, the Jersey Devil grabs the unicorn into the air and laughs. Surely its victory is in sight, but the Jersey Devil forgot one valuable lesson. The unicorn is magic. Struggling unicorn lets out a long bellow that shakes the stands and echoes in the skull of the Jersey Devil. Suddenly, a bright rainbow shines from high above. The beautiful rays of light cause the Coliseum to glow. In a rainbow, descends several unicorns of all various colors and shapes, stars and sparkles flying behind them. These beautiful creatures fill up the arena and they surround the Jersey Devil, who's feeling a little nervous about right now. The fire has spread across the stands, engulfing flames surround and devour the mad audience. A symphony of destruction roars out, and the unicorns begin to stab, shank, and skewer the Jersey Devil until there's nothing but ribbons left.
Oh my God.
goodness.
And thus, the magical beasts known as the unicorns return to their world, and they leave ours in flame and ruin.
Wow.
The end. And that was our unicorn's crazy journey in the Colosseum.
That was
Wow.
wild.
I love
I
it.
didn't expect multiple unicorns to come down from the sky.
Me either. It's kind of wild.
That was great.
And
That was
we
violent.
got rid of the old audience, and we got to get a new one in. So any takers?
Yeah, after I had just say let's take our seats, you killed us in the Coliseum.
Well, we have our own VIP section where we get to watch.
That's true. That's true. We do get a booth.
we
We've got
don't
our
watch
own.
with the riffraff. That's where all the splash damage is.
Oh man, that was great. Thank you
Thank
for
you.
that, Alex.
Well, thank you for sharing. Well, thank you for letting me share. And thanks for talking about unicorns today, everybody. It was kind of wild.
Yeah, if you guys want to take a look at the sources that we consulted for this episode, they should be posted in a blog post on our
They-
website.
They will. It took me
They-
a little while to come back from this trip. All right. I'll tell you all about it
Next time.
next time.
Yeah. Ooh.
But yeah, check out our website, cryptidcampfire.com, for our blog post about today's episode, where you can find all of our links and sources. And yeah, I think we have someone special to thank today, right?
Yes, we are thanking our Patreon supporter, Mark Trollinger.
Yeah.
Thanks for being a longtime supporter of the show. I think you were one of our biggest fans, because I remember like 2019 we were messaging, and he's written a couple of good books on cryptozoology, Chupacabra and the Bat Rastard,
Whoa.
Champ and a Bit of Sunshine, and the Red Ghost. I forget what that one's called, but he's the reason I found out about the Red Ghost. So
wow.
Thank you for putting that on our radar, and
Yeah.
we wish you well.
Thanks for
Mhm.
supporting us. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
All right. We'll see you guys next week.
Oh man, something crazier, I think, too.
Bye.
We want to thank you guys for listening to Cryptid Campfire. We really appreciate it, and we'd appreciate it even more if you left us a rating on Spotify or Apple Podcasts. It helps us rank, and more people can find us and join the campfire. If you haven't yet, consider following us on Facebook, Instagram, or Twitter. That's at Cryptid Campfire on all three. Be sure to check out our website, cryptidcampfire.com, where you can find campfire t-shirts and other merch, as well as our weekly blog, expanding upon what we talk about in the episodes. If you've done all that, consider subscribing to our Patreon page. $5 a month gets you access to exclusive episodes and wallpapers that haven't been released anywhere else. For the price of a coffee, you will be directly helping us make this show the best it can be. If you want to follow our hosts, you can find their personal profiles on Instagram at Jasmine May With, that's JasmineMaewith, at Alex Daikaiju, that's at AlexDaikaiju, and at the Eli Watson. Thank you, everyone, and see you next week.
This podcast is a part of Straight Up Strange Productions. Discover more shows like this one at straightupstrange.com.